hypothetically make America hot again?
The answer is Bo and Yang. It's obviously Bo and
Oh,
Yang.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Welcome to On Deadline, the Washington Examiner's political game show. I'm TNLO Desher.
And I'm Christian Daytalk.
Each week, we discuss the latest news and give our takes, and you get to vote on them. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. We begin above the fold. Christian, what story is trending for you?
Donald Trump has made it clear that, just like in his first administration, this time around, he wants to be the messenger-in-chief. There's just one person standing in his way. Chairman of the DOGE committee, Elon Musk. Reporters have been clamoring for Musk to answer questions regarding DOGE's audits of just about every federal agency under the sun. And Musk joined Trump in the Oval Office when he signed this executive order expanding DOGE's oversight of federal employee contracts.
If we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt.
Here's the problem. I've talked to a number of Republican strategists plugged into the White House who say that Donald Trump doesn't like this one bit. Elon is taking the spotlight, but Trump can't afford to get rid of him. First of all, everything Musk is doing is exactly what the MAGA base wants to see out of this administration. Repackaging a quest to sort of cut the federal budget into a full-on attack on liberal grab bag spending priorities. Trump's between a rock and a hard place. Does he keep Musk on board and share the spotlight, or does he cut bait and risk angering the people who put him in the White House in the first place?
With Musk's relationship to Trump, we've seen before people blowing up by trying to make it seem as though they're the power behind the throne. Luckily, Elon doesn't exactly have he's not Steve Bannon. He doesn't know how to spend hours behind a microphone each day, making it seem like he's the Rasputin pulling all the strings. And quite frankly, I don't think that's actually what Elon is trying to do. I do think he believes in DOGE as sort of this short-term mission. Is he doing it successfully? We'll see. Tech, run around and break everything and rebuild it. That is a very effective strategy, as demonstrated by his business acumen. Does it work in the federal government? We will see. The one thing I will say is, whatever the long-term political liabilities, for instance, you have this State Department buying $400 million worth of Tesla EVs. I thought we don't like EVs. I thought, aren't we like the conservatives? It could be helpful for Trump in the fact that by having Elon be kind of, ridiculous on Twitter with these photo ops with his kid, it makes Trump seem sort of like a statesman. And it also means that it gives Democrats and the resistance and everyone on Twitter someone else to obsess over, where Donald Trump has the highest approval ratings and has maintained them that he has had in his entire political career. Because since Donald Trump's been a politician, he's very much been intentionally divisive, right? He has been someone that won the presidency once without winning the popular vote and almost came close the second time. Elon Musk has always been a mainstream figure, like Disney or the NFL or movies have historically supposed to be, 80-20 popularity. That was Elon Musk until now, if you look at his approval ratings. So he is taking a lot of the heat for what Trump has done, while Trump has maintained, again, the most popular point of his presidency does not seem to be a fleeting thing, and that could be in part because of Musk.
I don't disagree with that assessment, but I think you're looking at it almost too rationally. I think it was Donald Trump who said, when you're a star, they let you do whatever you want, right? Elon Musk is a verified star, right? So he is used to operating in a manner where he is the one making decisions. Now, when it comes to DOGE's actual work, you take the politics out of it, what they're doing is successful. They are identifying government waste, alleged fraud, and taking steps to address that. The problem is, I don't know if that's how Donald Trump sees it, right? He's used to, across his political career, being the guy who comes out and says something, and then the aides behind him are scrambling to, make policy fit those statements. He's an emotional guy. But when Donald Trump is asked in the Oval Office about something that DOGE and Elon Musk are doing earlier in that day, like he was on Thursday, when DOGE showed up to the IRS, and it was pretty clear that Donald Trump wasn't aware about it, that's when he gets mad. So ultimately, again, this is a spotlight thing. There's only room for one star. in the sky above the White House, and I'm not sure Donald Trump is going to be willing to share it, even if Elon is effectively carrying out his agenda. Tiana, what's cooking with you this week?
We've had this long-running discourse over, am I an idiot? Does Donald Trump really just love tariffs? Should I have just taken him at his face value word this entire time?
I always say tariffs is the most beautiful word to me in the dictionary.
Alas, after many weeks of me being scared that I have to put on the clown nose, it appears that there is a victory for Team Tariffs as a tool as opposed to Team Tariffs as an end goal. We will come up with better terms for these respective teams. Although he is doing a universal 25% tariff on imports of steel and aluminum, he has announced these reciprocal tariffs will be decided on a nation-to-nation basis. For example, if Germany wants to tariff their car imports, we will match them. If everyone wants to bring them down to zero, then we will also bring them down to zero, which is how it should be. And you're seeing this already work in advance. J.D. Vance out in Europe. You've Ursula von der Leyen saying, no, Vance is an ally. And guess what? We might actually work together to combat the Chinese flooding the market with their steel and aluminum.
You know, Tiana, I do want to give you kudos on this because you basically called it from the beginning. It does look like the way the Trump administration has laid out these tariffs, it looks like this is a pure negotiating stance and not necessarily, oh, we want to limit free trade across the world. And when you think about what Peter Navarro, Trump's top trade advisor at the White House, not to be confused with Jamieson Greer, the U.S. trade representative, you have to think these guys really have evolved from the first administration where tariffs were strictly punitive and there was no end goal in sight. That being said, I'm curious to hear about how this might, complicate the coming tax fight that Republicans are not only going to be waging with Democrats, but with, members of their own party. When you hear Navarro talk about how this tariff strategy, the reciprocal tariff strategy, is a key way to combat, the VAT tax, value-added taxes that the European Union, puts on American imported cars. Other countries in Central and South America use similar taxes. And I don't know if this is going to be, again, an area where Trump can afford to spend this political capital if he's already having trouble wrangling his own caucus to advance that tax agenda he laid out, over the last 2 years. What do you think about that?
I mean, he's going to have to be careful because, so for instance, with VAT taxes, there are border adjustments, which means a VAT is not treated like a tariff. Mm-hmm. If Germany wants to VAT its own cars, it's not like it works across the border. So there are lots of tariffs. Like, we really do have a very limited amount of tariffs relative to other countries.
Sure.
So Trump is just saying, make the rules fair and let's try and bring everything down to zero, which is absolutely the correct strategy. Where the issue would be is if you start from a position of, what we saw with Mexico and Canada, where he threatened, I'm going to press the button because mine's bigger than yours, like he did with Kim Jong-un, but then walks it back. Because what you don't want is you don't want to have states where you're already getting absolutely clobbered by food inflation. It's exacerbated by a 15% increase in egg prices just in January.
Yeah.
You don't want to have them have issues with bringing in food or with then selling their food abroad. So if he wants to use it as leverage to get some of those New Yorkers to be more compliant, because you do have those blue state Republicans that right now control the House until April, when you have the special elections to replace the seats of Mike Walz and Matt Gaetz, you literally don't have a vote to lose.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think this isn't necessarily where Trump is right now, but he does run the risk of, again, being the boy who cried tariff and trying to bluff these other countries just one too many times. Up next is Yays and Nays, a segment where we get to vote up or down on the week's biggest stories.
The hashtag resistance is not actually futile.
President Trump plunged the country into chaos without a shred of warning. The Trump administration announced a halt to virtually all federal funds across the country. This is a dagger at the heart of the average American family in red states, in blue states, in cities, in suburbs, in rural areas.
I'm voting no on this. I knew you were going to vote no also, but it's probably for different reasons. I mean, what are you thinking right now?
It's a structural flaw. If your movement is built on we will not let Donald Trump ever enter D.C. again, which is what Nancy Pelosi said in just months before the election.
And Nancy Pelosi's at his inauguration, yeah.
And also, you called him literally Hitler, rapist, fascist, dictator, autocrat. Your movement has failed. He has been, this is his second term as president, and not only has it failed, but you guys are accusing him of fascism and a constitutional crisis over getting the government to do less, right? Like, there are some legitimate fears that I think lots of us more traditional libertarian, from an economic perspective, conservatives have been concerned about Trump not caring so much about the deficit in the past. And then he brings in Elon to say, take a sledgehammer to it. Sure, I would like him to focus on entitlement reform. The idea that we want more elected bureaucrats being able to operate with impunity, like, that is the opposite of a dictator or the opposite of a fascist, in my opinion. And so as a movement, it has failed, and it is so evident in just Democrats couldn't even block RFK Jr.
Yeah.
Like, how futile is your movement when you
I knew you were going to bring this up.
You gave him his entire cabinet. If you don't count the Matt Gaetz being withdrawn, it's like the first cabinet to make it through all the way successfully since HW, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's a poor use of their time and efforts, but like ultimately what I'm concerned about is it just shows no evolution within the party about how they're approaching this problem. You know, we've run into Donald Trump 4 years during the first term, 4 years on the outskirts during Joe Biden. He's going to get another 4 years now. And it's like the Democratic playbook hasn't changed in over a decade, right? When you look at
Russia, rapist, fascist.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you can only call someone Hitler so many times before the insult starts wearing off. And you'd be better off saving your bullets, so to speak, for things that Donald Trump is actually doing, which could pose huge problems, like firing, U.S. attorneys without notice, even if he is technically constitutionally allowed to do that. Or, in the case of Mayor Eric Adams, directing the DOJ, specifically from the White House, when or when not to intervene in pending court cases. Like, I mean, this is a failure in thinking. It's a failure in organization. It's a failure in, the party with being able to elevate people who have shown progress and like a true commitment to the ideas, as opposed to, again, someone like Al Green or Maxine Waters or even Nancy Pelosi at this point, who all they are in power to do is say Donald Trump bad, but we're not really going to do anything about it, right?
And when they have actually gone through extensive measures to try and block things, it's done so, it's cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Yeah.
For example, these federal worker buyouts. About 65,000 federal workers took up Donald Trump's offer to say they will resign, and in exchange, they'll get like 8 months of
through September, yeah.
Full severance. Like the best deal anyone could ever want in terms of leaving a job. Then Democrats decide to fight Donald Trump. They're going to block the payout in court. I was talking last Monday with someone that had quit their job and was like, "Oh, what if I just both lose my job and I don't get the 8-month payout that I thought I was going to get?" But they'll do it because it's owning Trump. Now it's time for us to fill in the blank.
Blank will be the next SNL alumni to publicly join MAGA.
Oh man, why do you give us these questions when there are just so many answers that we could fit in here? Just for background, this weekend was the 50th anniversary of SNL. You've probably seen it all over NBC or Twitter or wherever. They've been publicizing it like crazy. But two of the most famous people to ever host SNL are now leading the White House and the Trump administration. Of course, you've got the president, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump. And like,
such a lib.
I couldn't help myself. But looking forward, I do sort of think the way culture has reacted to the cancel culture movement, I just repeated myself, but whatever, and just sort of how they engage with conservatism in general. You've seen people in Hollywood, in media, sliding to the right. I mean, I think the person who would be the most surprising, but maybe the most impactful, is none other than Timothée Chalamet. And am I just saying this because my wife has a huge crush on him, and I'm very jealous of how he can pull off a very raggedy-looking bad mustache? Maybe. But that was a joke. Seriously, I mean, look at Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys have never explicitly been political, and their whole thing is pushing back on, the public consensus. They're agitators.
Yeah.
I think Joe Rogan has shown there is an entryway into politics from an entertainment standpoint. People like Andrew Schultz have followed on him also. And like SNL, whether you agree with me or not, remains like the top humor and entertainment brand in American media. There's going to be more people moving to the right. It's impossible to name them all in this segment.
I mean, yeah, it's comedy isn't comedy if it isn't subverting some sort of norm, right?
Yeah.
And like the liberal stranglehold over the culture, like really just over the last 10 years was so total and brutal. There's a reason why like I feel like for 10 years SNL was just not politically relevant because all it was clapter. In order to like actually be funny, you do have to be willing to offend. And like specifically with Trump, like a lot of the accusations made against Donald Trump are confessions because he was a celebrity, a Hollywood, cosmopolitan, elite, liberal celebrity before he was a Republican politician. So you saw when, I don't want to hear from a bunch of like godless Hollywood actors about how Donald Trump speaks poorly about women when you're on like your 7th baby mama. Like, so a lot of it just fell flat with the criticisms of him. Something else we saw with another celebrity turned politician in the form of RFK Jr., right? Like the anti-vax stuff was mainstreamed by Jenny McCarthy and by a bunch of other celebrities who are still in good standing. So that's like why you have like Woody Harrelson, who another SNL host who's like publicly MAGA. I think he did like events for him before he joined the Trump ticket. So it's just a matter of Obama was a politician who became a celebrity. Donald Trump just reversed the formula, but the ingredients were all the same.
Yeah.
And so it's like some of it is just embarrassing and bad, like when you just have like Louis C.K. gets canceled and now like he's trying to be like, I'm kind of MAGA, right? Like Bob Menendez style of like, well, now I get the deep state. But then there are actual people, like I think of like a Kim Kardashian who, yes, was willing to work with Trump in like the first term because Trump was willing to work with her. And like, I respect the hustle, right? If you care about one issue as a celebrity and you find someone that can get it done, the first step back in criminal justice reform. But also like aesthetically, make America hot again.
The answer is Bo and Yang. It's obviously Bo and
Oh,
Yang.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Anyway, we're going to end up how we always do with our last laugh section, where we take a look at the lighter side of politics. And I think, we spoke about Elon Musk at the top of the show, but the real star of that press conference was not Elon. It was not Donald Trump. It was X. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his full name.
Little X or
something, yeah. But Elon Musk's kid with Grimes, the pop singer and poet.
Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, okay, we would have to, if you sorry. So, tell you, gravitas can be difficult sometimes.
And let's be honest, I'm all for bringing kids into the Oval Office at this point. I mean, I'm in there every other day, and it gets monotonous. Let's try to mix it up a little bit, right, guys? Life should be fun. There's levity. Not everything is, again, the Holocaust or the sky falling on our heads. Take time to enjoy the little things.
Yeah, and kids not being present in like a workplace is like a weird like historical anomaly relative to like the last, let's say, like 2 centuries or 2 millennia of human civilization. It's really only like the industrial era where like kids are not in the workplace because it's unsafe.
Well, kids were in the workface a ton during the industrial era.
And then
in fact,
it stopped for a while. But it's like the work from home laptop revolution.
Yeah.
Bring kids back in the workplace, right? No, but really, I like this is what does a government really exist for? Make it easier for the next generation, and like it is a good public reminder. And it's also nice to know that billionaires and vice presidents, they're just like us, and that is beholden to the small children that don't realize that like they're representing the United States government. Love this from J.D. Vance. His little 3-year-old daughter will not, like, you could not use a crane to remove her from him. And he's just like, yeah, so what if I'm a heartbeat away from the presidency? I'm also dad.
Yeah.
And I love that.
It's nice to see. It's nice to see.
Let us know who you think won this week's clash, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video. In the meantime, check out washingtonexaminer.com. I'm Tiana Lowe Desher.
And I'm Christian Daytalk.
And we will see you next week.